So I have this I think it's a 1967, if I'm reading that date code correctly. 1967 Deluxe Reverb amp. This is my friend's amp, my neighbor slash friend. How cool to have someone so close. And he bought this amp a while ago. It had 6L6s in the power tube socket. And he said that the cool thing about it was the normal channel also had reverb. He wasn't sure what was inside. He just kind of blindly bought it. Just kind of want to go over what I see. That's kind of interesting. Right off the bat, I noticed that the death cap is still installed. We have a 2-prong outlet. And yes, I did discharge the capacitors. We have a 2-prong outlet, sorry, and then we have a 2-prong plug. So what I did was I found this chart on the internet. This is actually my first conversion. I found an old IEC like computer cable that was around the same thickness as the vintage style. So I clipped it and I'll install the 3-prong. A couple other things I noticed around here. It looks like it was capped at some point, or recapped at some point. A lot of eclectic parts. I think it was recapped a while ago by someone who had a bunch of weird vintage parts. Something that I'm going to start doing on my amps is kind of what this guy did, or girl, or technician, I'll say. And that is adding a capacitor for the bias pot, because I was watching Sonic Audio's videos and he mentioned it. And I don't know why I haven't come across it before. Basically, you're making a voltage divider with this bias pot, and you only have a capacitor on one end. And on all my guitar pedals, I know that you put capacitors on both ends of a voltage divider. When it comes into a power section, this will filter out any ripple that is induced by that resistor, basically that pot. So I'm going to add that to my amps in hopes that it makes it a little quieter. Sonic Audio claims that it does make his quieter, so that's good. Poking around, I noticed that the technician also, rightfully so, has removed any of the grounds going to the lugs or actually these transformer tabs here, so that's good. That technician seems like knows what he's doing with some really interesting part selection. It's like this is like an old Sprag. I don't know what's original. I'll be honest. I'm not an aficionado when it comes to original amps. But, I know that there's blue molded caps, so that's good. These are still the 400 DC ones, which we know on other amps and solid state amps specifically. Those get close to 400 volts, if not sometimes go over. It looks like the plate load resistors have been changed out in a few different spots. I'm pretty sure these have been upgraded to either 2 watts, maybe 1 watt, 2 watt. I'm not quite an Alan Bradley aficionado, but I do know that those are carbon composition. And then I see those a lot on the super reverbs back in the day. I find it interesting how they're kind of, the black lines go up and then the black line goes down sequentially. Don't know if that's original or not. So here's an interesting thing. Another thing I'll kind of go through is that there's this 400 volt, 0.1 microfarad, I believe, box film capacitor. So that's interesting. I don't know the brand. These are interesting. They're Sprag axial orange drops of sorts. That's cool. I've only seen them also digging through. My old job used to be repairing TV station equipment for a very well-known sports company. You might be able to guess which one that is because I don't work there anymore. It's ESPN. And we had this old section of old parts. and they had these in it, so that's interesting. That was the only time I've seen those. They might be used in other applications. Here's the jumper from the normal channel way over here. So the signal, if I remember correctly, signal comes out. Here it's DC coupled already, or so it's blocking DC. It's just the signal. Comes down here and is mixed here with, I believe those are 220K ohm resistors. And then 220 on the other side. I mean, I'm not too crazy on the work that's done. It's I don't want to disturb anything because it is working. So I'm not going to mess with that. Here's another interesting part selection thing here. So we have this. I believe that's not original. Let's see, what else do we see? All right, it looks like there was a resistor added here. That does not look standard for back in the day. There's a resistor. What pot is this? The bass pot. My guess is that it's and I can't figure out, maybe a 1.8K or something. My guess is that's the bottom floor of the bass. So when you roll down the bass all the way, you actually reach a point where you still have some bass. If you look at like steel string singers, you'll notice that there's a resistor here as well. I'm going to guess it does the same thing. I don't know if that's original. I guess I could find out. Looks like the bypass caps, cathode bypass caps, were replaced at some point. I'm not sure of that brand. I haven't seen them before on any sort of modern amp sort of tech pages like CE distribution. I don't know if that that capacitor is original. It looks old. So I guess overall there's a lot of things that look old. That resistor is not old. Looks like it might have been added at some point. So basically what I'm here to do is install, and I already did, where are we at? Some vintage RCA tubes. They're completely black. And to change out the preamp tubes and bias this thing appropriately. But I'm also going to swap out this 3-prong cord. Plenty of videos on how to do that. Maybe I'll kind of show that afterwards. But yeah, this is what's kind of going on. If you see anything else that's interesting to you, please leave a comment. I know I haven't been uploading too many videos lately, but I plan on changing that. Talk soon. Alright, so fairly standard change here. Again, my first time. So we have the before, then the after. You'll notice that the death cap is removed. And then basically you have a green soldered directly to the chassis connection there. It's small, but it's definitely mighty. It's secure. I was able to use my pliers to reuse the same strain relief. There is an additional wire in there, so it was a little bit tighter to get that back in there. We have our black. Going over to this section, life hack I learned is that you just flip the piece of paper around and then your orientation is exactly how it should be. So I'm going to double check the wiring after that. So we got the white short jumper and then you got the black coming over. So now we have our 3-prong. Basically that's all I'm going to really do to this amp. It was working beforehand. The owner really likes it the way it is. I'm not going to change anything else. That was my only concern when I saw it. So now it's just a simple bias it up and let it rip, make sure it works, and give it back. Cool. Thanks for following along. I'm so glad to be back doing these videos, and I'll be doing more. Talk soon.